Heritage Sports, I am going to put you on a secret war that is between Fox and Disney. I had no idea about this, and I'm going to break it down for you right now. So, I was looking for a topic in Black History Month, and one of the people that came up was The Rock. He, with a few others, brought the XFL back uh, from his 2020 demise and revitalized it. And now they're back playing games. And I was thinking it debuted in Black History Month. Let me show love to The Rock. But I discovered something way, way on a grander scale. So, The Rock and his ex wife, Danny Garcia, teamed up with a venture capital firm called Redbird Capital. That I knew. They bought the XFL out of bankruptcy for a total of 15 million. From there, they moved headquarters from wherever it was to the DFW area, where all the teams reside. Cool. They started playing games, whatnot, and that was basically it. Off and running. I was going to say, salute to them. And then I said, you know, they announced an agreement with with ESPN, basically Disney, to only show games on their properties. All right. So follow me. The games are only on ESPN. All the games are on ESPN Plus and ABC networks sometimes. If maybe a premiere game, and then it's on FX. And I thought nothing of it because I know from just the news, Disney was the parent company, owns ABC, owns ESPN, bought a lot of Fox properties. And one of the things they bought, and in properties I mean like their brand names, their studios, and one of the things they bought was FX. So I knew that was a Disney property, so that didn't strike me as anything. But what struck me was, huh, I remember one of the reasons why Vince McMahon went bankrupt is he could not get distribution of the XFL. And not Vince McMahon going bankrupt. The XFL went bankrupt in 2020. He could not get distribution of his games without paying, and that's what I remembered. In 2020, there was a bunch of different channels and platforms where you could see XFL games, including their own website. You could have seen XFL game in 2020 on the NFL Network. And I was thinking, wow, they must have a great deal. But come to find out, when the bankruptcy papers came out, that was because they had to pay for every broadcast. There was no licensing deal, no content deal. In these particular things, like the NFL, CBS has to pay them however many much million to play those games. Fox has to pay them so much millions to watch those games. So I knew from that bankruptcy thing, I was like, yo, Vince, why are you paying them to broadcast your games? They just didn't show Vince McMahon any love at all. And that exacerbated and sped up the demise of the XFL in 2020, that and the pandemic. So they stopped the games. And again, they didn't have the money coming in from the media anyway because they were paying to have their games broadcast, right? So, of course, they're going to declare bankruptcy. All right, cool, bet. But then I'm like, well, how does Disney pay The Rock and his friends money to exclusively have the XFL? And then I thought, well, The Rock has, all these movies that he used to do for Disney and maybe still do for Disney. The Jungle Book, Moana, the Playbook, stuff like that. So he's had a working relationship with Disney, so maybe they're showing love. And then I said, wait, let me Google search something. I googled Redbird and Disney. Turns out Bob Iger, who was the former CEO, left Disney and was about to take a big job with Redbird Capital until Disney decided to fire their previous CEO, Bob Chapek, and bring Bob Iger back. So Bob Iger is now back the CEO of Disney. And it just so happens that the people he was going to work with, who probably have ties to Disney, decided to give the XFL a contract, and contract by paying for their broadcasting rights. All right, cool. But where does Fox come in? Great question. I'm about to tell you that right now. So Fox comes in out of nowhere. One, they are competing with their main competitor, which is Disney, and people don't know it aren't aware of it. I first noticed it during the Super Bowl. They own Tubi. I had to Google it because everybody's like, man, what's going on with this commercial? How are they allowed to do this during the Super Bowl? The Super Bowl was broadcast on Fox, and then the Tubi commercials kept going. And I was like, how's Tubi affording this? For what I know, is a bunch of hood movies on Tubi. Well, yeah, it is, by the way, but Tubi is a platform kind of like they're taking away from Netflix. It's a whole bunch of free stuff, free content where people can upload, their movies, and it's a big platform. I hadn't been on it too much, but I know you can get quality to hood movies on Tubi. So I was like, how did they have that money? So I Googled it. Tubi got bought out by Fox a few years ago for like a 400 something $1 million deal. So it's a Fox property. So I was like, all right, cool. That's the way they've been able to do this. But I was like, yeah, that kind of competes with Netflix, but it also kind of competes with Disney Plus. All right, cool, cool, cool. Nothing of it, nothing of it. And then I said, huh, I know the USFL is coming back out. Let me see who owns the USFL. Now, is a very interesting, this is where it gets interesting. All right. So this article is by Dominic Marinelli. The titled article, Who Owns the USFL and the Brand and its Teams. So they go through the history or whatever. I didn't really care about it. I know the USFL started in like the 80s. And by the way, spring football has been losing money since the 80s, but they decided to do this. Anyway, so there's a person named Brian Woods. He founded the league. And Brian Woods would be later appointed to the role of vice president of the USFL. All right. Okay, whoever Brian Woods is. This was in October 2021. In the meantime, Fox set up what is known as a subsidiary, and thus the National Spring Football League was formed. So they they formed a subsidiary with Brian Woods and named him the vice president of this organization, and bought the rights and have the rights for the USFL. So, in conclusion, Fox Sports owns USFL. Because I kept seeing commercials about USFL on Fox. And I'm thinking, well, I don't remember why XFL wouldn't be on Fox, because XFL 2020, they were everywhere. You could watch it on whatever channel. But then, like I said, I remembered them getting exclusive deal with Disney, and with ESPN, huh. So now I go to USFL, I do that Google search, and I find out that USFL is basically owned by a Fox Sports subsidiary and some guy named Brian Woods. And the only time I see commercials for the USFL is coming up is on Fox, and that's where you're going to see all the games. And I was like, oh shit. So you telling me Disney and The Rock are having a secret billionaire war with Fox Sports? They are. Not only they're doing that, remember Disney bought a lot of the Fox properties, including FX. So I'm thinking they can't beat them with content. Fox is just going to stick with their sports vehicles. Have Tom Brady, pay him $50 million a year to be an analyst and do podcasts, and that's it. And then I was like, oh shit, they own Tubi. So not only they're fighting on the content side, they're fighting in a football league, and we don't even know it. It's the damnedest thing. But I wanted to bring this to you all to let you know what's going on. So you're not going to see the USFL on ESPN or any of its properties, ESPN Plus, ABC, nothing like that. You may see a commercial if they pay for it, but that's it. And vice versa. You're not going to see XFL games or commercials on anything else but ESPN properties. So, unless they pay for a commercial on Fox Sports, which I don't think they would even do, that's the only way you're going to see it. So it is a super secret billionaire war. Now, I don't know how it ends. I'm telling you this for a fact. This is my opinion. Since the 80s, spring football has been losing. Everyone says, oh, NFL needs a feeder league, a feeder league, a spring football league. They have a feeder league. They have a training league, and it's called the NCAA. It's college football. These kids play like 18 games, especially if you go to the college football championship or the playoffs. That's that is literally their training. So I don't know why spring football is just a sticking point. XFL, Vince McMahon tried it back in the early 2000s. He tried again in 2020 and then got handed his ass because they wouldn't work with him for whatever reason. No one would pay him for his XFL rights. So the teams went into bankruptcy really early on instead of having that 3 year commitment because they couldn't get money coming in. And lo and behold, The Rock, Redbird Capital, who seems to be like a proxy to Disney and their Disney executives, decide to buy the XFL for $15 million. All of a sudden, they get contract rights, TV contract rights. They got money coming in. They consolidate operations and move it to Dallas, Texas. And now they have all of this content ready to go at one facility to make all these impressions. And then all of a sudden, in a few weeks, the USFL starts, and the USFL is only on Fox because the USFL is owned by Fox Sports, and is just a wild, crazy thing, and no one's even talking about it. So it's something I found out, something I wanted to bring to you all. Is super cool to see how this is gonna turn out. I personally think they're gonna lose their shirts, but anytime you get TV rights, I don't know because Fox is they can't really pay themselves TV rights because they're only putting on their own product. It's kind of like a choice. You go to Sam's, you go to Target, you go to Walmart. You know they have their own brand. You know like Market Pantry or whatever. So I don't know how that's gonna work out. But maybe the XFL, their bottom line gets a little bit bigger. But to me, in the long run, spring football has been losing money since the 80s. I wish them the best. Anyway, Heritage Sports, just letting y'all know about the secret billionaire wars that are happening between these two companies, whether it's Tubi versus Disney Plus or the XFL versus the USFL.